Welcome to How to Build a Nonprofit, the only podcast dedicated to deep dive interviews with nonprofit founders about their journey, their why, board development, fundraising, staffing, leadership, and making a big impact. We ask courageous and visionary founders about their struggles and successes and everything in between. As a listener, all you have to do is learn and appreciate. I'm your host, Thierry, and this is How to Build a Nonprofit. Travel can be more than indulging in good old-fashioned wanderlust. It can open your eyes to a foreign reality, to help yourself see things in a different light, and to recognize place-based social constructs that are influencing your thoughts and habits. For Bianca Nelson, it's these travel effects that she wants to improve the lives of Baltimore youth. And it's why she founded her organization, Learning to Live Movement, which provides youth of color with leadership development, cultural education, and travel programs to destinations including Brazil, Jamaica, and Belize. In this interview, she discusses how she started her organization with very little knowledge of the nonprofit world, the critical help her board members provided in her first years, and the wisdom she has gained in fundraising, youth programming, and organizational management over the last 10 years. All of this and more in today's episode, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Bianca, thanks for being on the podcast. Really excited to have you on today. Talk about Learning to Live Movement. Your organization focuses on youth travel, right? Can you just tell us a little bit more about like what the mission is and sort of what your core programming is and where you guys are based out of?
Yes. So we are a nonprofit out of Maryland. We provide travel opportunities for high school students. Most of our students are out of Baltimore. We will expand eventually, but we make sure that students who usually can't afford to travel have the opportunity to travel and learn life differently. So we use unfamiliar spaces as our classrooms for kids to learn things about themselves and the world around them before they become adults. We also have a passport program, so if they don't travel with us, we prepare them to travel at any given time.
That's really dope. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Like where are you from and where was this appreciation, love for travel like born in your life?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Baltimore, born and raised. I left Baltimore when I was 19. I moved to California, and living in California, that was like, total 360. What is happening?
Big change.
Yes, big change. I was already a travel lover, and I always dreamed of traveling, but, didn't have the means and all that good stuff. When I got to California, that love for travel just it just grew bigger. And then I took a 30-day solo trip to Australia, and I was able to see things completely different, learn things about myself that I didn't know, learn things about the world, even down to the little simple things of the word holiday, and understanding that holiday was different than what we thought growing up. So being in Australia, it taught me a lot. And I realized that in order for our people to get ahead in life, we needed to travel more. We needed to get outside of our comfort zones. It's hard to do that with adults when they're already really comfortable and stuck in their ways. So I figured, let me start with the youth. Let me start with high school students before they become adults, teaching them that life can be lived multiple different ways. Life can be lived the way that you want it to be lived. You do not have to live your life the way that your friends say, your family say, anyone in your current environment. You don't have to live your life that way. Go out and explore, learn new things, meet new people, and figure out how you want to live your life.
Yeah. One of my first trip outside of the United States, I was like almost 30 years old, I believe. And I went to Ethiopia, so that was like incredible awakening to just like the differences out there, beyond the American way of living and thinking, but especially as a Black person, right? So much of my identity was rooted in, this idea of difference, you know what I mean? And of being othered. And so to go to Africa, to an African nation and be completely surrounded by other Black people that looked very similar to me, right? I couldn't necessarily use the same categories. I couldn't walk around as categorized people, you know what I mean? Because I didn't know anybody, I didn't know any of that society, right? And so it was just it just really opened up my mind and to the vastness of our humanity, and it was liberated me in many ways from the constructs of like how I was socialized to, see myself as a Black person. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, that's why I feel like, travel is it's a privilege, of course, but it's
Hmm.
such an important thing to do if you have the opportunity, and in particular for Black people in the United States,
That's so funny you
descendants of
mentioned
slaves.
Ethiopia. Everywhere, everywhere I go, every time I come across someone from Ethiopia, they speak to me in their language, and I'm like,
Oh yeah, you could pass. Oh yeah, definitely. Me and you.
everywhere I go, if I come across someone from Ethiopia, they're like, "You're my
It's-
sister," and I'm like, "I don't know, I don't think so."
Yes, but no. Yeah.
I want to go though. I've never been to Ethiopia.
It's incredible. Highly recommended. Just incredibly warm people, really, really rich culture, was never colonized. So the historical lineage, the thread is not,
Yeah, they
it
still
wasn't cut
have it.
off.
Yeah,
Right. They still
yeah.
have it. And the food was amazing. Food was amazing. And like my biggest surprise was like the clubs and like the rooftop
My
bars
gosh,
everywhere and like the clubs, and like it was like, oh, this is
they know how to
live. Like,
party.
yeah, they really do,
They know
and
how
and
to
when
party.
people think about Africa and African cities, like that's not the kind of images that, are conjured up, right? And so I was surprised, and I think many people will be. But yeah, very vibrant city,
And that's why
lots
you
of
have to
incredible
go to
history.
those places.
And that's where you have to go.
Yep. You
That's
can't
why you
just
have to
depend
go.
on what people tell you.
Yeah.
What you see on Instagram have to go.
Yeah. No, 100%, 100%. So for you, you went to Australia, was kind of like your big, awakening, mind-blowing moment. Is there another trip that you can say like really resonated with you or had a significant impact on like your worldview and perspective?
Yes. So there were a few places I went. I feel like every place I'm one of those people, no matter how much I travel, I'm always still excited to travel and excited to
Yeah.
go somewhere new. It's not like I think some people kind of get so comfortable
Yeah.
with the fact that they travel so much, and I'm still just like a kid in a candy store. So
Yeah.
every place has touched me differently and like still to this day opened my mind up and blew my mind like, oh my gosh. But what I can say is Costa Rica and
Mm,
Hawaii really like did something to my soul. And we could go on to another day, another podcast,
yeah.
but they really, really touched my soul where it reminded me of why I do what I do and why I
Mhm.
created my nonprofit, because it taught me like, wait a minute, there's a piece of your soul that you have to continue to tap into. And sometimes when you are living in your comfort zone, you forget.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
you get in these cycles of life of just working, paying bills, you're
Mhm.
hanging out with family, you're just in the cycle of life and you forget that there's a piece of your soul that you
Mhm.
have to really tap into to find your peace and continue to be what you were born to be. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So those places,
100%.
they touched me differently in Hawaii because I got to live there for a little bit. But I had an experience in Hawaii and North Shore. And I'm just going to put this out there. If you
Mhm.
ever go to North Shore in Hawaii, do not, and I mean, do not ever turn your back towards the ocean. Don't do
Okay.
just
Don't
don't
do it.
do it. But I'm grateful that I did make that mistake because again, I felt like I died and came back to life and it was just a whole
Wow.
spiritual journey that just I was at peace.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's powerful. I haven't been to Hawaii yet. I mean, I can't believe I haven't been to Hawaii yet, but I
Oh,
haven't
it's
been.
believable. It's
Yeah.
expensive and
It's
depending on who you are, it
expensive.
could be expensive,
Yeah.
long journey.
Right, right. Everyone in my family has, my brother and my parents and everything.
Right.
And yeah, no, I hear incredible things. And I don't know about you, but for me, like I tend to make some big life decisions either while on a trip or like upon returning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like having this perspective of like, that's another reason why it's important.
Yeah, Costa Rica was another one of those places to me too of the decision of I don't want to live with a whole bunch of things, and especially non-meaningful things, unmeaningful
Yeah.
things. So it's like it taught me that less is more.
Yeah.
It's so cliche, but it is so true. Less is more. So
Yeah.
I made a big life decision while I was in Costa Rica.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. You know, your organization is now is it in its 10th year? Did I do the math right?
Yes,
Congratulations.
thank you.
That's
That's
incredible.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So, can you kind of take us back to like, why you started the organization in 2015? What led to that moment where you decided, I'm going to start a nonprofit, and begin this journey to take this to the youth?
Yeah, honestly, straight up, it was my cousin telling me that I'm crazy and redirecting
Really?
me. So, like I said, I came back from Australia. I was already on this journey of what can I do to make sure that people growing up in cities like Baltimore are able to see the world like I am and experience the world like
Yeah.
I am. And just to paint the picture for you, I came from this Baltimore girl. Every weekend, me and my friends, we were out partying in DC. We always had to have a new outfit, new nails, new hair, just partying it up, living the party life, right? And then into living in California where my fun was at least like twice a week, me and my friends would go on sunrise hikes. So we would wake up at
Hmm.
4 a.m.,
Yeah.
drive to whatever mountain we decided to climb that mountain, and as the sun was rising, we're hanging out, we're
Hmm.
chilling on top of a mountaintop. Or my fun was meeting my friends at the beach with our hammocks, popping our hammocks up, reading books, hanging out on the beach and partying,
Hmm.
bonfire. So,
Hmm.
two different worlds, right? So I
Yeah.
was already on this journey of this is crazy. Like I love my life. And
Yeah.
I think that other people should experience this. And
Yeah.
especially people coming from Baltimore where this stuff isn't just happening every day. And then I took the trip to Australia and that really was like, okay, wait a minute, you got to figure something out. So when I came back from Australia at the time, I was living with my cousin in Long Beach. And when I say my cousin, he's not my age, so he's a mentor. Right now, he's about 82 years old. So
Oh,
to give you
wow.
perspective, right? So he's
Hmm.
been there, he's done it. And I'm like, I can't wait to get rich. I only want to get rich because I want to take that money and pour it into being able to pay for kids in high school, pay for kids
Yeah.
from Baltimore to travel the world. And I'm telling him this, and I'm like, I'm telling you, like, all I need is this amount of money. I could pay for X amount of kids a year. I got this plan of all I got to do is one day, keyword, one day get rich. And he was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. We're not going to say one day. We're going to say right now. What you're going to do is you're going
Mm.
to start a nonprofit because you're not rich yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know what is a nonprofit? What does that even
Mm.
mean? Every day, he will walk me through, explain, listen, this is how, because you're not rich, you don't have the money. So you got to figure out how you're going to fundraise. You got to figure out how you're going to beg and knock on everybody's door and ask them, can you borrow $1? And
Mm.
those dollars are going to add up. And then eventually you're going to have the money to make sure that these kids travel. You're not going to be rich yet. But what you want to do, you're going to be rich in just happiness of what you want to do. And
Facts.
he broke everything down and he's like, listen, if I didn't have him, I don't know where I would be. But I tell people all the time, find a mentor and just don't stop researching. And so he broke everything down, how to start the business. He went with me down to the Secretary of State, like just went through all the steps to get everything done. And I just continued to build from there. But it
Wow.
all started from me saying, yeah, one day I'll get rich and I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And he's saying, no, this is how you're going to do it. And
Wow.
it worked out.
That's incredible. So you're in California at the time when you come up with the idea. Did you went through this process. What was the process like of like doing the paperwork, registering, having to create, list some board members, paying fees? Like, can you talk about that?
Yes. One, of course, just registering the business. I've never registered a business before. So just researching, how do you register your business? And understanding that you don't have to go through the third party services like your legal Zooms and stuff like that. Again, you just, especially in today's world, you can talk to ChatGPT and it'll tell you everything that you need to
Hmm.
do. But just registering the business first, getting your EIN and everything, then getting the bank account, doing your bylaws, finding out who your board members are. Well, one, figuring out what board members are for. And two, picking your board members, which is a really, really hard thing to do, especially when you are just starting and you want to make sure, because the thing that people don't understand is, although I'm the founder, I created the nonprofit, I've done all the freaking work, 80 to 100 hours a week, I don't own it. So it's very important that you pick board members that are going to value you and try not to sweep it from up under you and kick you
For
out,
real.
and just understand like what those bylaws mean and what they're. So you go through those processes first, just registering the business, make sure you're registering everything correctly with the state that you're going to operate in, getting your bank accounts and everything up, open and up to date. And then from there, it was a roller coaster of learning. It was a roller coaster of learning because, again, I didn't know what a nonprofit was. So I always advise people, if you are thinking about starting a nonprofit, do the research of what that actually means. Because no, you cannot just have money coming in and you just take it and go pay your bills and do whatever you want with it. No. You know what I mean? You can't even really pay yourself until you get to a certain point of, okay, things make sense.
Exactly.
A large percent of the money is going to programs first before it's ever paying anyone out. So there's a lot of research that needs to be done. And I advise everyone, depending on which state you're in. So like Maryland, we have something called Maryland Nonprofits. And then I'm also a part of a group called Urban Awareness USA. I think they are gold. I think every Black founder nonprofit should join Urban Awareness USA, because you will learn so much from how to start your nonprofit to how to run it and how to just keep it going on the right track. But in the process of the beginning, find a mentor, find a group like Urban Awareness, find your local nonprofit organization that can help mentor you. What I did for my first few years is I had a fiscal sponsor. So that allows you to bring the money in, do what you need to do without stressing too much about, the big government stuff that you got to think about that is very stressful. And it avoids a lot of the paperwork.
Yeah, so that I'm so glad that you brought that up, because fiscal sponsors are one of my favorite topics. Just because, it is an entity, a pathway that, not a lot of people know about when they're first getting into the nonprofit space. And it can be super helpful, especially if you're starting with nothing. You know what I mean? And so being able to find a fiscal sponsor that's going to basically kind of take your project in and allow you to start accepting donations and writing grants and doing all that sort of stuff can really give you a leg up in terms of beginning to move the work forward and not being stuck with some of these major infrastructure, challenges for your organization. What would you say was sort of the best or most important benefits for you with the fiscal sponsor?
The mentorship. It's a cheat code for mentorship, because your fiscal sponsor, 9 times out of 10, they're going to set their percentage of what they take from what's brought in for your programming. So they want to see you succeed. So they're going to be free mentorship, if you want to use that way, because, or, mentorship at a 10% cost, however you want to break it down. But you don't have to pay them anything up front. Like you have to pay a consultant. They are there for you. They're making sure that you succeed. They're going to help you bring the money in. You can ask a million questions because, again, you're their partner. They want to see you succeed. And that's why it's important to find a fiscal sponsor that you can trust 100%, that you can trust, that will communicate, that you can call at any moment. You know what I mean? Because this is still your money that's going into their hands. And people are still, although it's going into their hands, the people who's giving you this money, they're still going to look at you. So make sure that you can trust the person. I would say start off with, a smaller organization that already, that are already doing things in your local community. And before you partner with the fiscal sponsor, ask a million questions. So ask them to see their paperwork, their 990s, make sure they are in compliance. And you can Google all this stuff or chat GTP, but make sure you ask a million questions and you go into business with a fiscal sponsor that you can trust, because the biggest benefit is that mentorship. Once you have a good relationship with them, learn everything you need to know. Where they, where the mistakes are, where the success is, like learn everything you need to know until you go and get your own.
100%. And, that experience tracks with my own and with the advice. I mean, I just did my last newsletter talking about fiscal sponsors, and what to look for in choosing a good one. And one thing people should also know is that, sometimes organizations may not list that they will offer fiscal sponsorship like out there on their website.
Yep.
But if there's one that you feel like is really aligned with your organization, the direction that you're trying to go to, you can also approach them and ask them if they'd be interested in serving as a fiscal sponsor for your project. So you're not necessarily limited to just what results come up in a Google search, you know what I mean, for fiscal sponsors in your community or what have you.
Knock on doors and ask. I
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
knock on doors and ask. And also another good benefit of fiscal sponsorship, you'll be surprised of what organizations might need your service. So for an example, my fiscal sponsor, they provided resources for kids in the community, after school programs and all the other stuff. So they had everything you could possibly think of for kids, but they didn't have the travel piece. So now we can, not only are you a fiscal sponsor, but now they definitely want to help, because they're like, okay, well, let's figure out how we can get this money so we can add your program to our organization, and our kids can travel with your programs. So you find stuff like that and you're gold.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. Bianca, can you tell us a little bit about like how you started to raise money for your organization?
I worked a million jobs. The real fundraising didn't come until I moved back to Baltimore, when I realized, okay, if I'm going to have a Maryland nonprofit and I'm going to focus on Baltimore kids, I need to be boots on the ground. Because it's all about relationships. I don't care what anyone says, it's all about relationships. Yes, strangers will support you, but when it comes to, people talk about that stranger stuff all the time, about strangers supporting you versus family and friends. When it comes to nonprofit work, I feel like it's the opposite, because unless you are like selling t-shirts to anyone in the world, or unless you're providing like a product, it's all about the relationships. And my family and my friends were my very first, because we would host small events together, and they buy tickets. We did a lot of food events because that's the industry that I was in, a lot of like wine tasting. So a lot of my fundraising came from events, and if you really do it right, you can raise a lot of money from events, especially if you have a really good network. So I started off with a lot of my fundraising with events, still to this day, mostly events. And then I started to just get more creative, because the thing about fundraising is you have to always get creative. Because again, you're not selling soap on Amazon and t-shirts and whatever, things that people need every day. You're saying, hey, give me your money so you can just feel good. Like you could pat yourself on the back and you could say that you're doing something for someone that you might didn't have when growing up or whatever, but mostly events.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's super helpful to hear, because, I think events, especially when you're doing a community-based project, you know what I mean? Putting together events not only can help you raise money, but really generate awareness and create fans of your work, of your organization, people that now want to be invested in what you're doing. And so I think it can be, like a really powerful way for organizations that don't have a lot of money and probably honestly don't have a strong enough track record to necessarily apply for like any big grants yet either, to show that we have support from our community, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so events definitely can help accomplish that as well. So can you tell me a little bit about like what some of the first initial programs were that you did with young people? Was it a trip, or was it like kind of education awareness about travel?
Yeah.
What was it?
In the beginning, we did a lot of community work with our students, but the goal was to make the right connections to fundraise for the trip. So the bigger goal was we were going to Belize. But what we did with them was we had a lot of community events that we would have them volunteer. We helped at other events and stuff like that. We had sessions where we would teach them like about travel and the importance of travel. Since we were going to Belize, we did a lot of sessions of just learning Belize, learning the culture, understanding maps, because that's another thing that we provide, just teaching kids how to read maps and what's where are you? And then where are you going? So that was a lot of the beginning work.
Wow, that's really interesting. And so it sounds like, it's not just about traveling or trips. It's really leadership development. It sounds like community engagement, you know what I mean? Being connected and involved in your community.
Building relationships where you are, and then also being one thing that my students love about me is no matter where we go, I can phone a friend. I'm like, learn how to build relationships where you are now. So then it's the same. My husband tell me all the time, people are people and everybody are kindergartners. And so you can't be afraid to talk to people and so I teach my students that too. Build relationships where you are, and then as you continue to travel, do the same thing and understand that they're just people. The same way you built those relationships back in Baltimore, you build those relationships everywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we need these. I mean, I believe that with where things are right now, just in society with technology and social media, and like all these things are discouraging the relationship building,
Yeah.
and the ability to get out there and to start talking with strangers and having
Yes.
conversations with
Talk
strangers
to
and
your neighbor.
yeah, being uncomfortable in environments, and, travel can really be a way because the one thing about when you travel too is like sometimes you're forced to, because you're
Yes.
like, I don't know where I'm at. I need
Yes.
to talk to someone
I
to
gotta
tell
talk
me,
to somebody.
right,
Somebody
to
need to
tell
be
me
my new best friend.
exactly, right? So you're forced to kind of make relationships in many ways. And so it can remind you of that, or like for example, when you're traveling and you come across another American, you're like, "Hey, another American."
Yes.
You get excited to see
Yes.
another American, but then if you were in America, you wouldn't be excited. You probably wouldn't even talk
Which
to them, right? Yeah, so it's like all about, just like how you frame it in your mind. So yeah, that's super powerful. So y'all went to Belize,
yes.
and what was you did 2 trips to Belize. What was the impact of that on the young people?
Jesus. That's a whole nother conversation. One of my biggest, they got to learn so much about who they were. My oldest, he had a real crazy situation in Belize where it was like that mirror moment. Like, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is how I'm, this is what I'm going to give the world. But it was so many different things that I noticed that they learned about themselves and about people. But one of my biggest stories is the shocker of exactly what we teach, that you can live your life however you want to live it. And the shocker that the guy who did our snorkeling tour, they couldn't believe that was his job, that was his living, and he made a really, really good living. And they're like, "Oh, so you just hang out in the ocean all day?" He's like, "Yeah, hang out in the ocean, and then I go home, hang out with my family, pop a couple beers. I got kids, I got a beautiful wife, we hang out by the beach, and then I wake up and do it all over the next day." And they're like, "What else do you do? How do you make money doing that?" Like, he had, I think, maybe 3, 4 kids, whatever. But it blew their minds that you don't have to be a ball player to make good money. You don't have to be a rapper. You don't have to be a hustler. You don't have to work at Walmart. You literally can go anywhere in the world, create whatever you want, and make good money.
Wow. Yeah,
You can do what you love and make good money.
I'm jealous. I wish I could have been on that trip. A, to go to Belize and check it out, but B, to witness those young people going through that moment, right? And of realization of like, yeah, that this is real. It's mind blowing, right? So I'd like to ask you like about some of the most challenging parts of this journey for you so far. What would you say has been like, the biggest challenge for you in starting or continuing to keep your organization running?
All capital letters, everything.
All of it.
No, I can say starting and running a nonprofit has been the hardest thing I have ever decided to do with my life. But I'm grateful, I'm thankful, I'm here, and I ain't stopping. But the most challenging, and I hate to say it, the most challenging is fundraising and paperwork. It's that simple. Fundraising and paperwork. Everything else, it comes and I just dance with it. I'm really good with kids. Traveling with kids is very, very stressful. It is very stressful. It's very stressful. I'm just gonna leave it there. But I still enjoy it. It's like it's like rush of excitement and scariness at the same time. So I enjoy it. But my most stressful, challenging things are paperwork and fundraising.
Hmm.
Everything else is just a dance.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's that's the hard part for most of us, right? What are your plans going forward? What's ahead for Learn to Live?
That is amazing. So, first thing first, I want to acknowledge that in the nonprofit space, things are tough, things are hard. But as long in anything, right? As long as you're working, you're going to accomplish your goals. Give yourself a moment to realize when you accomplish goals and celebrate it. One of our goals for this year was to complete 4 trips within 1 year, and that's the goal for the next 5 years. I didn't realize it until literally yesterday that we accomplished that goal.
Wow,
No,
congratulations.
to just appreciate the present moment. And what's ahead is more of that. Our goals is 4 trips minimum a year and provide at minimum 50 students with passports per year. But eventually, within the next 2 years, one of the biggest goals is to have more of our alumni running the organization.
Oh,
I
yeah,
want them
that's
doing the planning. I want them doing the paperwork,
hmm
the fundraising, but really just being more involved on the programming. What's going on and how? How is it
hmm
happening? Who are we, working with? I want them working with the kids that are entering the program more hands-on. So that's what's ahead, to see more. And even, things like these interviews, I want the kids in front of the camera talking about the challenges of running a nonprofit. You know what I mean? They might didn't start it, but I want them to understand what it's like to run a nonprofit, do something that they're passionate about. Because of course the kids that's going to run it, they're passionate about what we do. And they know that it changed their life. So I want more people to hear their stories of how travel changed their life.
That's a beautiful vision. Beautiful vision. Wow, thank you. And I'm
Simple.
excited for you. And yeah, and so the 4 trips that you've done this year, or do you have one coming up soon?
Yes. So our fourth would be next month, November, is Brazil.
Wow. Wow. Sao Paulo or where?
Rio.
In Rio.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to
Oof.
the Black Travel Summit. So
Okay.
the kids, I've been for the last like couple years, and it's really powerful space to get in to just understand what it's like being Black in tourism and hospitality industries and how to get into those industries as well. Because my last 10 years of my career has been hospitality, and it changed my life completely. But it also was that industry that allowed me to travel whenever I want. You gotta request PTO, and you gotta do this and you gotta do that. So some industries are not flexible. So we teach kids how to get into an industry that is flexible, that you can earn whatever you want. The sky is not the limit. And how to show up as yourself, as your beautiful Black self in those industries.
Wow, that's so cool. Well, I'm so excited for y'all to go to Brazil, to Rio. It
Yeah.
sounds like an amazing experience.
It's been a stressful journey. That's another thing. Again,
I can
paperwork,
imagine.
visas,
Yeah.
and paperwork.
True.
But
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. This has been a really fun conversation.
thank you.
I personally feel like I'm just so excited that you're doing this for our young folks. You know what I mean? Because travel has been such an important part of my life. I don't know if I shared this with you, but I actually live in Mexico. And so my traveling has brought me to actually
What part?
live abroad. I live in central Mexico in a city called Querétaro, which is like
Okay.
2 hours north of Mexico City.
Okay. Okay.
And so, it's been a
We owe you a visit.
life-changing. Yeah, come on down anytime, honestly. And yeah, it's been a life-changing opportunity to come down here. And man, I just wish everyone has that opportunity and choice to experience, at some point in their lives. So Bianca, thank you so much. This has been really fun. Keep up the great work. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you. I will see you in Mexico.
Thanks for listening to How to Build a Nonprofit. If you liked the episode, check out the show notes for a link to donate to our guest organization and give us a rave review while you're at it. Feel free to leave comments and questions on your app about what intrigued you most. If you have any suggestions for future guests, email us at howtobuildanonprofit@gmail.com.